random logging the dudes before.
What?
God, bro, you ain't.
So, you've heard of Lethal Company, right? And if you haven't, I really have to ask the question, are you even human? Because although the game may not be very popular anymore, it still remains a juggernaut in the indie game space, and also I've got to note something real quick. Out of all the states that could have possibly had a high interest in the game, Alaska was one of the highest. The hell are y'all doing here? I find that the best way to describe Lethal Company is by calling it a mix of oh shit what was that moments, friends trying to fuck you over and everyone in the call wheezing like a teapot throughout the whole thing, with a set of low poly graphics with a nice atmospheric environments, and of course, a fun repetitive gameplay cycle, which I've spent quite a few hours on, and I've eventually come to wonder, less about Lethal Company itself, as many have done, but more about Zeekerss himself. Because seriously, how the hell did a furry that used to make Roblox horror games have such a breakthrough in the horror indie game space? And if you haven't asked yourself that question, then, well, I don't know. Go fuck yourself. Well, I'll tell you, where you'll learn more about who Zeekerss is, and most importantly, why I believe It Steals is so special not only as a game itself, but to Zeekerss' story. So I won't waste your time any longer, besides reminding you to please subscribe. I've been stuck at the 1.29-ish K subs for too long. But anyway, let's dive in. To start, we're given some disclaimers. You know, your usual horror game stuff to avoid the creator getting in legal trouble. Which of course I do recommend you paying attention to, but moving forward from this, you then get into the menu of the game, where you see, of course, a menu with our good old friends, play, options, credits, yada yada yada. Anyway, there's not much to be said about the menu in terms of design. It doesn't try anything new. And that's fine. It looks neat and tidy, giving the player everything that you need on a silver platter, and there's no gripes to be had with it. Jumping into the gameplay, we're immediately smacked in the face with the instructions to check our radar by pressing R, in which then a map shows up, showing our location and the location of these blue orbs. These blue orbs being what you need to collect to beat the game. Because in a really simple manner, this game is basically Pac-Man. And so it's only safe to assume that means something has to be hunting Estelle in these halls. This right here is the main antagonist of the game, Legs, which, with your little flashlight by your side, you will flash him to scare him away. Let you keep on exploring this maze and find more blue orbs to collect. And although it may seem very simple, the time frame that you have from hearing the sound cues to actually finding him to flash him is incredibly short. So it's very important that you pay quite a lot of attention to sound cues to make sure that you don't die, or at least not get hurt. Also, one last thing to note regarding Legs, as while he may seem simple enough with really the solution to him just being flash him and there you go, future of this completely throws this out the window and adds a new layer of unpredictability, this being his rage state, which first reveals itself with an obvious change in atmosphere. Now, instead of a quiet and creepy vibe, you now have the vibe of I'm going to fucking kill you, you better start running. He'll chase you down like there's no tomorrow, where quickly the maze layout will soon begin to bite you in the ass. You can't look on the map to know whether or not you're nearing a dead end, it's completely up to your memory and to your odds. Luckily, however, this doesn't last for too long, and quickly you're back to the game of finding blue orbs. After keeping close attention to the audio around to try to catch up Legs sneaking up to you, and trying to navigate through the maze, you'll survive after collecting the final orb. Suddenly, you'll appear in another area, with a short little hallway to the door at the end. Two ways to the left, which is blocked by crates, and right. I first did go forward to see if there would be anything that would happen from interacting with the door, but yeah. Turning around and exploring what awaits us here, we find another door. However, we don't get to move forward much, as quickly then the door opens as a black entity, who proceeds to then attack us, or consume us, I don't know, sending us straight into the menu, which at first will bring us a bunch of questions. What was that? What happened? And wow, that was it? That sure was a short game. However, you then will notice two new things. First, a little guide has been added to your guides because for it to be added you need to play the game mode at least once, and the game modes, where you'll have 4 more different game modes to choose from. However, to unlock a different game mode, you then have to play the new one that you just unlocked. But, for simplicity's sake, in this quick little segment here, I'm going to quickly go over every single one. So let's begin. Shutter mode. Instead of a flashlight, you now have a camera, limiting the amount of times that you can flash Legs away. Not only that, but during his arranged state, you can temporarily freeze him, letting you run away from him, as he now runs way fucking faster. Hide and seek. Instead of Legs, we now deal with Hider, who although at first is hiding, you are now the hider, and have to avoid getting caught by him at all costs. And if you get caught, well, obviously, you die. And of course, get the blue orbs. Living walls, if not obvious already, the monsters are inside the walls, or more accurately, are the walls. You are given a radar telling you how close you are to one and how much time you have left before the walls are enraged and go ganging up on you, and also collect the orbs. Lastly, we have the Phantom, where the enemy's in a visible form in a way that really should not be this funny as he pushes objects out of his path. He locates you by noise, which is why you're given the power to cover your mouth and shut the fuck up. And again, blue orbs. As you can probably guess, the modes, despite having the same overarching idea, have their own unique twists and tweaks to help the game retain its freshness all throughout. And if you do get bored of the game, you can simply choose another, or then you'll be put with trying a completely new strategy to win, because no, this is obviously not FNAF, where you get a perfect unbeatable strategy, you can just rinse and repeat, and boom, you win. But as much as this is a very good thing in my view, it is the combination of all of which I've talked about today that I think makes this game so good in my mind. Mind you, I said good. Not masterpiece, not great, just good. Now, let's go back a bit. Turning back to Legs, which I believe is a perfect example to showcase Seekers' style and expertise when it comes to transforming something simple into so much more. Legs' design can be summarized as quite literally just a box, 2 sticks, 2 red dots, and something resembling a mouth. While outside the game and viewed in 3D software, the design would be in the nicest way possible, be quite boring. In the game, with its graphical and atmospheric setting, sound, music, or lack thereof, and level design, suddenly you no longer have a walking box. Instead, you have a nightmarish scenario. The level design making you feel very claustrophobic with the tight halls and maze, making you very worried of whether he'll be right around the corner or if he's breathing down your neck right behind you. Not to mention that the sound design is great. The echoes of your steps, the silent winds, and the mechanical and electronic sounds of your map all filling your ears, overloading you despite the quiet surrounding. When suddenly, it all just explodes into a moment of pure surprise and fear. It all works perfectly in amplifying that weird creepy vibe and look that the game has going for it. While I can't exactly pinpoint or define what the style of look is or how it's done, simply calling it low poly I believe is disingenuous and takes away from Zeekerss' own style, which I believe has developed over the years due to a couple of reasons. Because there are reasons why these games look the way they do, which I like to believe originated from his time working on Roblox. The low poly and somewhat minimalistic approach, attempting to keep the player on edge not through sheer graphics and visuals, but a mix of sound design, atmosphere, level design, and overall just unsettling environments. This comes from Roblox's engine limitations. Some good stuff has been produced here, and one of my favorite horror games of all time come from here, which unfortunately has been chopped and is now pretty much dog shit and not worth playing at all. But it should still come to no surprise that the engine is still pretty lackluster when compared to industry standards such as Unity, Unreal, and even Godot. And considering that Zeekerss was only 10 when he released his first game here, it's not unexpected for this to be the approach, especially with how much more limited the engine was when compared to now. This all culminates into a game that's pretty fun. It's not a smash hit, but it's a fun little short horror game that will give you a scare or two. And this is reflected very well with the content creators who decided to give this game its spotlight. Ignoring Roblox, as it was pretty popular there, getting a few hits here and there, and even getting nominated for the Bloxies, or Roblox's versions of the Game Awards, Zeekerss' real first hit was its steals. Content creators that you have watched in the past played this game, and have had a similar experience. It marked the breakout point for Zeekerss, from here on out leading into a wider audience and market, and where he finally can decide where he wants to head for his game dev career, where 3 years later Zeekerss would release his biggest project to date, what we all today know as Lethal Company. And that's why its steals in my view is so special, and why I believe it's such a giant stepping stone for Zeekerss and what the future holds of him. But perhaps I'm reaching here. While it sure was a very important game for Zeekerss' career, perhaps calling it the big swing before the big break is a little misleading. But I think the connections here just make sense in my view, and it's something that I found worth writing 6 pages on. But I digress. It still is a game that I've had a lot of fun playing and recording, and would recommend many of you to go out and check out the game. It's only a few bucks, and really I don't think it's a game that you'll regret playing if you're a fan of horror games. But that's all I've really had to talk about the game today. So, as I've mentioned earlier, I've been stuck at the sub count for quite a while now, and really, subscribing or giving this video some feedback would mean the world to me. Be excited because the next video will probably be FNAF again, so return to normalcy. At least I hope anyway. But, I'll see you next time.